Have you ever woken up thinking it's going to be just another okay day? The sun's up, birds are chirping, and the world seems to be in perfect order. You stretch, yawn, and get out of bed. The floor is cold against your feet, a feeling so ordinary it's almost comforting. You make your way to the kitchen, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and glance out the window. It's just another day, another 24 hours of existence. You're perfectly okay. No signs of anything unusual. No monsters hiding in the closet, no shadows creeping under the bed. You smile at your reflection in the mirror. Life is good, it's just an average day in an average life. You're okay, you're more than okay, you're good. But oh, how deceiving appearances can be. Little did you know an okay morning was just the calm before the storm. Then, out of nowhere, you start feeling a bit off. It starts like a whisper, barely audible, a small blip on the radar of your otherwise okay day. You're not quite sure what it is, but it's there. Like a mosquito buzzing around your ear. It's a mild annoyance, but you're convinced it's nothing more than that. Maybe it's the coffee you had earlier, you think. Perhaps it was a bit too strong, or perhaps not strong enough. You tell yourself it's probably just a caffeine crash. Or maybe it was that weird dream you had last night, the one you can't quite remember, but it left you feeling like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You try to shake it off, keep going about your day. You smile, you laugh, you go through the motions, but that feeling, that creeping unease, it's still there, subtly gnawing at the edge of your consciousness. You start to second-guess yourself. Your decisions feel slightly off. Your words don't come out as smoothly. You find yourself lost in your thoughts more often, and not in a good way. It feels like a fog is slowly rolling in, clouding your mind, distorting your perception. You're still functioning, still moving, still interacting, but it feels like you're doing it through a thick pane of glass. Everything is slightly muted, slightly distorted. It's like watching a movie of your life, but the sound is out of sync, the colors are washed out, and you're not quite sure you like the main character. You tell yourself it's just a phase, that it will pass. You're just having an off day, right? Everyone has them. But that little voice in your head, it's not so sure. It's starting to get louder, starting to question, starting to doubt. As the day wears on, that mild discomfort, that subtle unease, it doesn't go away, it doesn't fade into the background like you hoped it would. Instead, it grows. It festers. It starts to take on a life of its own. But soon, that mild discomfort evolves into something much more sinister. Within just an hour, you're sucked into a vortex of self-doubt and self-loathing. It's as if you're in a whirlpool, spiraling down into an abyss of your own making. Welcome to the descent into worthlessness. An all too familiar territory for some of us. You start to feel like a nuisance, an obstacle in the path of everyone you come across. Every interaction, every conversation, every glance exchanged, it's all tainted by this pervasive feeling of being an inconvenience. It's as if you're an extra in a movie, a background character in your own life. You're there, but not quite. Visible, yet invisible. Heard, but not listened to. This feeling of worthlessness grows, feeding on your insecurities. It magnifies every perceived flaw, every mistake, every shortcoming until they become larger than life. It's like you're stuck in a hall of mirrors where every reflection is distorted, twisted into the worst version of you. You're caught in a cruel paradox. You want to be seen and heard, to matter, but at the same time, you wish you could just disappear, blend into the background, become non-existent. You yearn for validation, but dread it at the same time, because deep down, you're convinced you don't deserve it. And the worst part? That voice in your head that keeps reinforcing these negative thoughts. It's relentless, ruthless, echoing your worst fears and insecurities. It's a constant reminder of your perceived worthlessness. It's not just a whisper, it's a scream, a cacophony that drowns out any positivity, any self-love that you might have had. This internal monologue, this cruel commentary, it's a constant companion, an unwelcome guest who overstays its welcome, feeding on your self-esteem, draining you of any happiness. It's a voice that grows louder the more you try to ignore it, a voice that revels in your misery, a voice that convinces you that you are indeed worthless. And the worst part? That voice in your head that keeps reinforcing these negative thoughts. That voice in your head, it's relentless, isn't it? It won't let you forget how worthless you feel. There's a war being waged in the battlefield of your mind, a ceaseless battle with the enemy constantly whispering, echoing, and amplifying your worst fears and insecurities. It's an internal conflict that no one else can see or hear. Only you can. It's a voice that's uniquely yours, and it knows exactly where to hit you the hardest. Imagine having a critic who lives inside your head, constantly assessing and dissecting every move you make. It's like having a roommate who never pays rent but always has something negative to say. You're trying to go about your day, and there it is. Like an uninvited guest, constantly reminding you of your perceived failures and inadequacies. It hammers relentlessly at your self-esteem, chipping away at your worth piece by piece. It's like an echo that never fades, bouncing off the walls of your mind, growing louder with every rebound. Each echo is a reminder of your worthlessness, your insignificance, your isolation. It's a never-ending chorus of self-doubt and self-loathing that follows you everywhere, tainting every moment with its bitter melody. And the worst part, it's not some external enemy you can confront or escape from. It's a part of you, a part that's deeply woven into the fabric of your consciousness. It's your own voice, your own thoughts, your own insecurities, echoing back at you. You try to fight it. You try to silence it. You try to drown it out with positive thoughts, distractions, anything. But it's like trying to fight a shadow. Every attempt to shut it out only gives it more strength, more power. It feeds off your resistance, growing stronger and more violent with every battle you wage against it. It's a cruel paradox, isn't it? The more you try to shut it out, the more it seems to amplify, bouncing back with even greater force. It's a constant reminder of your struggle, a testament to your internal war. It's an unending echo, a relentless voice that won't let you forget how worthless you feel. And the more you try to shut it out, the stronger and more violent it becomes. If there's no point to your existence, what's the point of existing, right? Welcome, my friends, to the existential crisis, the grand buffet of despair, where the main course is a hearty serving of pointlessness. Imagine, if you will, a world where you're not just alone and isolated, but rather non-existent. A world where you're not just invisible to others, but to yourself as well. It's like being a ghost, only without the cool ability to walk through walls or scare the living daylights out of people. In this state of existential dread, you're like a ship lost at sea without a compass or a map. You're drifting aimlessly, not knowing where you're headed. You're not even sure if there's a destination to reach. You're just there, a speck in the vast ocean of the universe. And let's not forget about the cosmic irony of it all. You're a sentient being, capable of pondering your own existence, and yet you're stuck in this cycle of self-doubt and self-deprecation. Every day feels like a rerun of the previous one, with the same mundane tasks, the same empty conversations, the same hollow laughter. It feels like you're stuck in a sitcom that's been running for too long, and the writers have run out of ideas. And just like a bad sitcom, you can't help but feel that you're the butt of some cosmic joke, a punchline in the grand scheme of things. It's not a pleasant place to be, this existential limbo. It's like being trapped in a dark room with no doors or windows. You're left alone with your thoughts, and let me tell you, they're not the best of company. They're like that annoying guest who overstays their welcome, constantly reminding you of your insignificance, your worthlessness. And yet, here we are, stuck in this existential conundrum. We're like hamsters on a wheel, running and running but getting nowhere. It's a cruel joke, really. We yearn for purpose, for meaning, but all we find is emptiness. That's where I am right now in the throes of this existential crisis, feeling like I'd rather fade into nothingness. So, let's recap this roller coaster from okay to worthless, shall we? We started off with an average morning, waking up feeling just okay. But as the day crept on, a sense of unease began to settle in. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, like a shadow slowly stretching across a room. This unease grew, transformed, became a relentless echo in our minds, a constant reminder of our perceived worthlessness. It was like a relentless critic, a voice in our head, shouting over our protests, telling us we were inconveniences, that we brought no benefits to those around us. This feeling of worthlessness then spiraled into an existential crisis, questioning the point of our existence. If we are so meaningless, so worthless, what's the point of existing at all? It's a journey no one wants to take, but sometimes it's a trip we're forced to embark on. And the only way out is through.